It's an open joke internationally that it's a hard thing to get a visa, but it's easy to just travel to Mexico.
Yeah.
And it's not so that you don't even need a visa to go to Mexico. You can just violently cross the southern border into Mexico, beat federal police in Mexico, beat them up, cross the border violently, just make it all the way through, go to the border, and be welcomed on the other side.
That they'll fight. So they'll fight the police and in the southern border.
They'll fight the police in the southern border. They'll throw rocks at them. They'll be violent towards them. They will go through communities, and all the communities are just doing this to them. Just go past.
Yeah.
When the first migrant caravan came up into Tijuana, the locals protested.
Yeah, I remember that.
The Make Tijuana Great Again hats, which I may or may not have something to do with that. The locals were wearing, the mayor of Tijuana was wearing a Make Tijuana Great Again hat, right? But they were like called racist. Like, all these guys are brown, right? And also, we just absorbed a whole segment of the population of the Haitian migrants coming into Tijuana, which they're I mean, as far as our experience with them, they were pretty good. They melded into the populace. They worked. They're fine. Now these Hondurans came in, and they were saying that they were going to turn Tijuana into Honduras, right? They were saying that they were going to shoot people that they wanted to mess with them. Two of them got picked up by the cartels immediately.
Whoa!
Immediately, so they calmed down a bit. And then they were complaining about the food that they were being given because they didn't want beans. They thought that was pig food, which is, if you tell that to a Mexican, it's like, but that's the experience that the locals have had with them, and it's not a good experience. And it's amazing that the first camp they had was next to a school. They had to close the school down because they kept getting harassed by the people there. But the Americans would come in and hand out backpacks, tents, food, clothing. And these guys were like, thank you, muchas gracias, thank you. And then you would see that at the open air market being sold and flipped.
Yep.
Right? And it was like, is anybody seeing this? American media shows up, get the kids out. Let's put them around. And the females out. Put them here on the outskirts so they can get, that's what they need.
That way AOC can show up and start crying at the fence, tricking a bunch of dumb people into voting away their rights and their sovereignty.
The last caravan that showed up in Tijuana set up right on the border and right in the middle of it. And I'll post this picture up tonight. I think I'll find it. Right in the middle of that camp, Biden flag.
Yeah.
And I went around and talked to a few of them. They were pretty defensive, but main thing is that the door's open. Welcome in. This is the time. The door's going to close again probably in a few years, so we need to go now.
Let us in, Joe Biden.
You said that in the 80s is when the little things started to become overlooked, and then it slowly led towards...
I mean, Mexico's always been, the corruption's always been systemic there, but yeah, I mean, the true corrosion that, criminal enterprises and feeding the massive drug market in the States and the corruption that kind of produced in Mexico kind of started growing, and how the corruption seeped into uncorruptible organizations like the military. Mexico had the military was like the uncorruptible, like these are the last defense. And then you had the Zetas, and then you had a bunch of generals being arrested for cartel ties. And then that shifted. Now that's why you see the Mexican Marines being utilized more now. The U.S. said, well, we don't use the Mexican military, we're going to use the Mexican Marines now. That's what you saw during the El Chapo raid. But now some of those guys have been arrested guarding cartel guys, bodyguarding cartel guys. Mysterious stuff happening in certain parts where they control the ports. I mean, if they are incorruptible and they are the leading defense in Mexico against the cartels, why is fentanyl flooding the country? These guys are in control of the ports. So,
I think it's all for money.
I mean, yeah, for them, yeah. I think a big part of it is money. I think a big part of it is lack of opportunity. I mean, for somebody like me, growing up in Tijuana, either it was going into work for a call center, going to work for a cartel, or going to work for the government. And after coming out of working for the government, I can't tell you the difference between working for a cartel or a government down there as far as how it was at the end.